In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a template like this and easily turn it into a beautiful finished website like this. And depending on your colors, fonts, and images, it could look like this, 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 or even this. And we're going to tackle it in 3 steps. So first, you're going to need website hosting and your domain name. Second, we'll install your baseline template. And third, I'll show you how you can add in all your own content, colors, images, and even new section blocks to make your site truly unique. And we're going to do all of it without any code or any tech headaches whatsoever. So let's just get started by getting you set up with your domain name and your hosting. So the domain name is just, yourbusinessname.com, and hosting is pretty much just the place where all the digital files that make up your website are stored. So there are a ton of web hosting companies out there, and I've tested them all. My favorite one is called Hostinger. It's just the easiest to use and the most reliable in my experience. And I've worked out a deal with them for my viewers. So if you go to hostinger.com/Wes, you're going to get the best possible price. It's usually around 80% off. So go to hostinger.com/Wes and we can get started. Okay, so if you follow that link, you'll wind up on this page. This is Hostinger. This is my absolute favorite web host. And using my link, you will get up to 82% off. I can't promise this is always the deal right here. They might be running an additional sale right now, but it's not going to be too much more than this. And you get 3 extra months for free and a free domain name too. So let's just click on Start Now. And then we have a couple choices to make. So there's premium, there's business. You're very unlikely to need cloud startup, so let's just focus on these two. Almost everybody will be fine with this plan right here, the premium plan. You can make 100 different websites with it. So if you're a web designer and you're using this for clients, you can literally have 100 different staging websites going on at any one time. It includes 25,000 monthly visits, all this good stuff here. Free SSL, that's super important for security and for Google search and all that stuff. Email backups. The one thing, actually 2 things that might make you want to choose this middle plan, business instead, it will get you up to 100,000 monthly visits. So if you have a high traffic website, you might need that. The other thing that's really cool with this is free CDN. That just makes your website a lot faster. So if you're worried about speed, you might want to go with this plan. But for now, I'm just going to choose the premium plan to get us started. And here you choose your term. I'm just going to choose 12 months for now. Okay, so yeah, it saved us 78%, which is awesome. So it goes down from 113 to 32.29 for the year, and then click continue. Then you'll put in all of your billing information and then continue. And next you're going to need to put in your payment information. So once you do that, just click on submit payment. Okay, so then it says something like this. So payment's done. You just click on the get started button. Now it's going to ask you some questions. You can skip all this. It's really not that important. And since we're doing a new website from scratch, we're going to click on create a website. Next, and then WordPress. We're not going to go with their website builder. That's just not the way we're going to do things in this program. So WordPress, click on next. Okay, so here's another important step where we need to set the admin details for your WordPress dashboard. So why do we need that? Well, whenever you want to keep building your website, or if you want to go just check out the back end or anything like that, you need to log into it. So these are the details you're going to need for that. So I just recommend it be your email address and then a password you'll easily remember that's still secure. Okay, so I've got mine. Now we're going to click on next. And we're not going to choose either of these options. We're going to go down to create blank site. Okay, and now is the part where we can actually choose your domain name. Remember, that's something like yourbusinessname.com. So hopefully whatever you want is available. Sometimes it's not though, and you'll have to get a little more creative. So I'm just going to try for, say, Wes McDowell Inc. Now, you've got all these options for all these what we call domain level extensions. That's your .com, your .me, .io. There's a lot to choose from, and there's more and more all the time. I tend to always recommend just going with .com for the really important reason that that's how most people think of domain names. And if you were to give people your domain name as a .net or a .org, their brain is more likely to remember it as a .com, so they're going to probably type in the wrong thing. So if you can possibly get your .com or something close to it that's a .com, that's what I would go with. And then we'll click on next. And it wants you to choose if it's personal or company. I'm just going to choose company and then next step. Okay, so just make sure your company name is filled in and that all this information checks out and is correct. And then you're going to click on Finish Registration. Then it's going to ask you where your audience is located, because here's the thing, you want your website to be stored. Remember how we talked about hosting is just a reliable computer that's set up somewhere, always ready to go. So you want that computer to be as close as possible to most of your customers and clients. So these are all their data centers. So if you're on the East Coast of the US, you might want to choose the one in Massachusetts. If you're more in the West, you might want to choose Arizona, or just choose whichever one in the world is closest to your customers. So for me in Chicago, I would probably do Massachusetts and then click Next. So now it's installing WordPress. Now this might take a couple minutes. So we're just going to let that run till it's finished. Okay, so that brings us to our WordPress dashboard. So this is where all the magic happens and we can actually build our site. But in order to do that, we have to add what we call a plugin. So if you're not familiar with that phrase, a plugin is simply an add-on that we're going to add to the website that extends its functionality. In this case, it's going to provide us with a website builder where we can just choose a template and then customize it without having to know any code. So the way we're going to do it is we're just going to go over to, this is the sidebar, we're going to go to Plugins, Add New Plugin, and we're going to go up to where it says Search, and we're going to type in Starter Templates. And then this is the one right here. We're just going to click on Install Now, and then on Activate. So whenever you install a new plugin, you have to install it, then click on Activate. Okay, so then you're just going to come down to under Starter Templates, click on Get Started. So the AI website builder is definitely not really a good experience, and it's not the best way to do it. So we're going to click on Build with Templates instead. And we're going to choose Elementor. That's the best page building plugin there is. Okay, so now we have all of these options of templates. So the thing is, some of them are very designed, some are more minimal. A lot of them they basically tell you what industry it's for, which honestly, you can use any of these templates for any industry. The only reason this says politician is because there's a picture of a politician here. If you change the image, you change the text, it could be for anything, right? But when we're getting started with a new website, I like to start with something that's very bare bones and very minimal so we can just apply whatever styles we want to it. So I'm actually going to go back up to the top and I'm going to choose this one called Hope. It's very easy to work with. You could just as easily use Planet Earth or Love Nature, but I happen to like Hope. I just think it's just kind of the cleanest. So I'm going to click on this. And here you've got like kind of a basic preview of the layout. This is just a really good starting place where we can customize what's here. Plus we can add in a lot of extra content blocks that will serve the content that you have perfectly, no matter what kind of website you have. So now we've got three things that we can kind of work on right now. The first is uploading your logo if you have it. If not, no worries. We will do the whole header at the end of this video, so you can just wait to then if you want. I am actually going to wait on that myself. Next, you can choose your font pairing. So they've got some really good ones right here, because the thing is, you do have access to literally thousands of Google fonts here, which can be overwhelming. And they've done a pretty good job of choosing some combos that look really nice. So just click through these, see if any of them appeal to you, and you'll notice it doesn't just change here, it changes everywhere on the site. So if you click through, we've got all these different looks. I think I'm going to choose this one, Outfit and DM Sans. I think it's a nice modern look. And the other thing you can choose is your basic color palette. So if you click through these, it's just going to change, things from like the button, these little lines. It's mostly like the button and these kind of backgrounds and stuff though. So I might just choose this nice green one right here. I think that looks pretty nice, but go ahead and choose whichever one you like. And by the way, you're not locked into any of this stuff. You can change things on the fly as you go, but it just helps to kind of have a good base to get you started. So we're going to click on Continue. I'm not going to worry about any of this stuff. I'm going to click on Skip, and I'm not going to put any of this in either. I'm just going to click I understand and then Submit and build my website. So from here, it's probably going to take a few minutes. It's just bringing in all of the images, all of the pages, so that we're ready to go with a nice looking base of a website. Okay, we're done. So once it's finished, we're just going to click on View Your Website. Okay, so here's a preview of what we have so far. Obviously, we're going to customize every bit of this, so it's going to look any way you need it to look. So in order to start customizing, we're going to go up to where it says Edit with Elementor. Okay, so now we're inside of the Elementor dashboard. So this is the tool where we're going to start customizing everything. And you'll notice we have two distinct areas here. We have, I call this the stage. I don't know if that's official, but this is basically where all the elements go. And then over here is the sidebar where all the different widgets are. And this is also where we can style everything and change the text. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of this box here. This always appears when you first get into the editing area, but I'm just going to click on the X. So we have a nice clean slate. So this is the home page, and it's really important to know that pages are really just built of stacked sections. So this is a section, then we have a section underneath it, and another one, and each one is filled with columns, and then within the columns, we have different widgets. So for instance, this is a text widget. This is an image widget. So let's just start off with the top, and we're going to start customizing every element so that it looks like our website in the end. So starting with our top section, we call this the hero section. The first thing you'll probably want to do is change the headline text. So that to do that, we're just going to click on it, and then over here in the sidebar, you'll see it says edit heading, and this is where you would do it. You just type in whatever your headline is right here. Something like that. So once you've put in your own content, we can also change the style. So if we click right here, we can change the alignment if you want to make it left aligned or right aligned, or centered probably looks best in this case. Then under typography, we have access to a lot of different things. So family means font, essentially. So it says default because we already picked those default fonts, but if you wanted to change it to something else, like I said, literally thousands of options. So, but for consistency's sake, I think it's best to just choose your font choices and then just keep going. So I'm going to do a Command Z on Mac to undo that. You can change the size. If let's say it's too big and you want to make it a little smaller, you can do that pretty easily. You can make it really small or really big, whatever you want. Obviously, you don't want it to be too big or too small. I think this looks pretty nice. And weight is just how bold or how thin it is. So maybe let's look at medium, think that looks pretty good. Transform, so this is basically if you want it all uppercase or, the first letter capitalized, you can control it that way. I'm just gonna leave it on default. Style is things like, italic, whatever. Just gonna go back to default. Decoration, underline, that kind of thing, but I'm gonna put it back. Now line height is one that you might have to use quite a bit because I think a lot of these templates, they make the line heights a little too big. By line height, I mean the space between the lines. It just feels very loose to me. So if you were to change this, you can drag it around to what looks good to your eye. And I feel like something like this looks pretty good to me. And you can do the same thing with letter spacing. That's a little less necessary in most cases. Okay, so now we have a button, and we've already chosen the color based on the color palette, but again, all this stuff can be changed on the fly. So let's go ahead and click through here. And the first thing you'd want to do is change the text of the button. So maybe it's not get started, maybe it's, schedule a free consultation. And you do want to make sure that the link is set. So I'm going to type a / and then the word contact. So that's going to link it to our contact page, which we'll get to later, but we want to make sure the button actually does something, right? So that's changing the text. Now again, we can change the style, and there's lots we can do with the button. So go to style, you can change the background if you go down here to background type. Classic means a solid color like it is now, and you could choose literally any color you want to. By sliding this around, you can get to pretty much any color. I'm actually going to click right here to clear it, and that's going to put it back to our default. Or you can choose a gradient. So that can be a cool look too. So if you choose two different colors, you just got to make sure they're two colors that look good together, because like something like this does not really work. So if you don't really trust your design sense, a solid color is going to be a lot safer of a bet. So I'm just going to click on clear again to get us back. And then text color, we could change that to anything. We could change it to black. I think white actually looked better. And then of course, typography we can change. That's the one thing, it didn't really change it to the right font, I don't think. So I'm going to type in outfit. That is the particular font that we chose for our headlines. But you'd want to either leave it as is or put in whatever font that goes with your own choices here. And again, weight, we could make it, semi-bold. Looks good. Now, what if we wanted this button to kind of stand out a little bit more against the background? Well, what we can do, sorry, I'm just going to click here to get rid of that. We can go down to where it says border type, And I'm going to choose solid because right now there was no border. You can choose a nice simple stroke around the whole thing. And then under border color, you can change the color to whatever you want it to be. I'm going to leave it on white. But a cool trick you can do is you can actually unlink these values so you can operate these independently. I'm going to do 0 on top, and that gives it a little bit more of that 3D look, right? So if you ever want to get a good preview of what your site's looking like, just click this little arrow and it contracts that so you can see what it really looks like. So I think that looks pretty cool. You can also do something where you do 0 on the left, so it just kind of has that slight bevel over here, so it looks 3D. And another thing you can do is border radius. So right here, it's like you can see that it's kind of a rounded rectangle. That's the default. But if you were to make that under border radius 0, that makes a perfect rectangle. Or if you really amp that up and bring it up, it can look more like a pill shape like this. You can do a box shadow behind it if you really want to give it some extra, popping out effect from the background. So this is looking pretty good, but what if we wanted to add something here? What if you have kind of a headline and a subheadline? Well, the subheadline isn't here, but we can easily add it. So what we want to do is go up to the top where it has the little plus icon, and that's where all of the widgets live. So you can drag a heading or an image over here or a video, or in our case, we're going to drag a text editor. So I'm just going to drag that right where I want it to be under the headline. So you can see there's words here, but it needs work, right? Because you can't really read it. First of all, what we want to do is change the text itself to be, your subheadline. So obviously we still can't read it, right? So we're just going to go up to style, and then text color is the first thing we want to do. So we're going to make that white as well. So we're just going to click right up here on white, and we probably want to center align this too, right? To match what we have above. And then we'll go to typography because I think we need to make it slightly bigger and probably slightly thicker too. So we're going to leave the font family the same, but let's see what we can do about the size just to make it a little bit bigger while it's staying on 2 lines. And then weight, let's see what medium looks like. I think we're already on medium. What about semi-bold? That looks too much. I'm going to put it back on medium. I think this is looking pretty good so far, but what about the background image? How do we control that? Super easy to do. All we need to do is select the section. So just click anywhere up here or on these 6 dots at the top. And then we need to go over to style. And now we'll go down to where it says image. And here's where you would select your image. You would click on select files and you would just choose the file that you want to use here. I happen to have already uploaded all my images, so just to make things easier. So I'm going to choose this one right here. And it's as easy as that. So in this case, this reads really well on top of the dark image. If you ever run into an issue where the text is hard to read though, what you'll want to do is still choosing this section, or container as they call it, under where it says background, we'll collapse that. We're going to go to background overlay. So you can see there's already one applied here. So you can choose whatever color you want. I will caution you to probably only choose black because when you start choosing colors, it just kind of gets a little funky looking. It doesn't always work. And again, if you're not a designer and you don't really trust your design sense, I think black is almost always going to work the best. From there, opacity is where you control how much that color takes effect. So 1 means that you're just seeing the color. 0 means you're not seeing anything at all. So you would just drag it to where you can still make out the image and you can still read the text. So in our case, I think we're probably fine about where it was. I think it was at 0.15, something like that. And that looks pretty good to me. Okay, but what if you wanted a different kind of a treatment for your hero section, right? Because the thing about this one is sometimes when text is on top of an image, it can make it a little more difficult when it comes time to optimizing it for mobile. So if you wanted something different, let's go ahead and just do a really quick different version of a hero image so you can see your options. So in order to add a new section, we're just going to go right here and we're going to click on the plus sign. You have different options. The plus sign here will make it to where you can make a section from scratch. And then this is the Elementor provided blocks, which aren't as good. I prefer the starter template blocks. So we're going to click on the little S icon and we're going to choose blocks, not pages. So now we have access to all of these different content blocks. They look very boring right now because they're not really styled, but it doesn't matter. The layout is what we're looking for. So they've done a good job of separating them by purpose. So instead of all, we're going to go down to hero. So now you've got all these different layout choices. They all seem pretty similar, but there's a few little distinctions like the size of the image. This one is bigger than this one. What we're going to be looking for though is this one right here, because the image takes up the whole right column. That's what we're looking for here. So I'm going to click on this one and then import block. And then I'm just going to get rid of this little remnant section here. So basically this is what we're working with. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually get rid of this right here. I don't really know what to do with it. So if you have something you want to put there, great. Otherwise, I'm just going to click on the little X. And of course, we're going to start by changing the headline. We know how to do that. We just click through to it and we just paste in our headline here. And then obviously it's too big. The line height's too much. It doesn't look good. So we're going to click on style, typography, and then let's just make it kind of an appropriate size. I feel like 3 lines looks pretty good. And then line height, let's just tighten it up a bit. Something like that looks pretty nice. And then we'll put our subheadline in, and then we would change our button as well to what we want it to be. And I just want to show you a trick here. So we could go through the steps of restyling it, but whenever you have something already that you like style-wise, you can apply that style to other versions of it. So for your button, for instance, I'm going to right-click on copy, and then right here, I'm going to right-click paste style, and that just applies that style to it. The one thing it did though too was it made it center aligned, because this one is, but we actually want this one to be left aligned. So we have to probably manually override that. So we'll go to under style, position, and we'll just click on the left. Then we can do things like change the background color over here. So just click on this little gray box to edit the column. We'll go to style and then background type. You can do a solid color, you can do a gradient, but that can get pretty funky if you don't really know what you're doing design-wise. So I almost always recommend, if you're going to do something like this, I think make it a solid color. So just go back to classic. And I think neutrals tend to look the best here. So I've got this nice kind of neutral beige color picked out. And another trick for you, whenever you know you have a color that you want to reuse, once you have it selected here in the color picker, just click on the plus icon. I happen to already have it in here, but you would just you could just save it as a new color, or you can name it if you want, if it helps you. Something like background beige, and then click on create. And then of course there's this image. So the way we control that is it's a background image for this column. So click on the little column marker under style, and then click on the image. And we're just going to use the same one that we used in our original hero section. So I think this is looking pretty good. So you can see now how flexible this is. You can have, something that looks like this, or you could have a hero section that looks more like this, or you saw all those other options. It can kind of look like anything you want it to. So you've got options. And like I said, a hero section where the text is not overlapping on the image just tends to look a little cleaner on mobile. So it's up to you which you want to go with. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this one for the sake of our tutorial, but choose whichever one you want. All right. So let's move right along to customizing our next section. So what you'll notice with these templates is they've kind of put together a rough assembly of like, here are the sections that we want to give you, right? Some of them you might need, some of them you might not need. And in some cases, you probably need a different kind of section to really tell your story your way on your website. And I promise we will get to all of that stuff. But for now, I just want to keep going on showing you how to customize things so you really get the concepts. So for instance, right here, what if you don't need this section here? If you do need it, you click on it, you change it over here. We already know how to do that. But if there's something you don't need, just right click on it and then click on delete and it's gone. And we've got this little line here. They like their little divider lines here. There's a lot you can do with them. If you click on it, you can change the width of it so it drags out that way. You can add an icon or text in the middle. If you click on text, you can, type in something here, or you could do an icon instead, right? And you just click here to choose whatever icon you want to choose. maybe a sun. And then of course you can style all of it by going up to style, changing the color if you want, the weight, you can make it thicker or thinner. You can control the gap like this. If you've chosen an icon or text, you can obviously style all of that stuff too. You can make the icon bigger or smaller. So it's all pretty intuitive once you know what you're doing over here on the sidebar, but I don't think we need it. So I'm going to right click on delete. For now, let's go ahead and change this headline. So I'm just going to click on it and we'll just type in whatever we want that headline to be. And then we can style it, go up to style, typography. Obviously, we probably want it to be a little smaller than it is. I think something like this feels better to me. And then what if we had a paragraph of text that we wanted to kind of expand on this with? Well, we know how to do that too. We just go up to the plus icon and then we grab another text editor widget and just drag it right underneath where we want it. And then we paste in our text right here. And since this is center justified, we probably want this text to match it. So we'll just go up to style. And then under alignment, we're going to choose center. And of course, if you wanted to change the size of it, you're just going to go to typography, change the size by dragging this around. You can make it thicker or thinner if you want to. I think it looks fine as is though, so I'm just going to leave it. Okay, so now we have basically 3 services, or these could be 3 benefits. So up till now, we've only dealt with images as backgrounds, right? This is a background image. It's not really something that was dragged into place and customized like these are. So these are handled a little bit differently, but it's still easy. You just click on each one and go over here to content and then click on the image. And this is where you just put in your own version of the image. So I'm just going to click on this one and then I'll do the same for the other 2 as well. And as you can see, like these are a certain, dimension, they're taller than they are wide. You can change that if you want. Like if you wanted these to be more square, might be more appropriate. It would be like less scrolling for people. Just click on the image and then go to style. And then you're going to go down to where it says height. And you're just going to drag this to where whatever looks good for you, like something like this, like let's just call it 320 to be a nice round number. And then rather than have to redo that across these, I'm going to right click copy, then right click paste style, and one more time. That's just a nice little shortcut. But what about this guy here? Wouldn't it be better if he weren't facing out and you were facing more in? Easy to do. We're just going to click on that image and then go to advanced. Don't let that scare you. And then we're just going to go down to where it says transform, and we're going to do flip horizontal. You can do things like flip vertical, but obviously that's more limited in its use case. But there's a lot of times where you do want to flip an image horizontally like this. And then you can do things like if we go down to mask, you can turn the mask on, and you can choose from these different shapes. You have a circle, flower, sketch, blob. You see blobs a lot kind of on websites these days, but unfortunately it's just this one kind of kidney shape. So things you can do. The circle is probably going to be the most versatile one here, but I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off for now. Just wanted to show you that that's possible. And then of course you would just change the text for all these. So what we have here, when you're editing these, it's called an image box. There's just no image attached to it. Like for whatever reason, this is separate from that. But this is kind of what I call a compound widget, which is basically several different elements that are tied together. So we have a headline and then a title and a description, and you edit both in the same spot. So for title, I might put in a different service that we offer. And then I would do that for these 2 as well. And maybe I feel like this description text is too big, so I would just make sure I'm selecting this, then go to style, and then under content, you can change the typography and the sizing of the title right here, but I want to focus on the description. So I'm going to go to typography, and I'm just going to, let's just make it more like that. I think it looks a bit more appropriate. And then go down to line height. Let's tighten that as well. Okay, it looks good to me. So now, of course, I'm just going to right click copy, then right click paste style, and one more time. Okay, it's looking good. Now we can change the background of this as well. So let's say we didn't want it to be white. We would just choose the entire section, go to style, and then under color, if you click here, you have access to the whole color palette. But if you click on this little globe icon, that's going to give you all of your pre-made color selection. So remember how we chose colors to begin with? Those all appear here, as well as any colors you happen to add, like our background beige that I added earlier. So it's just nice to have them all at the ready whenever you need them without having to, find them all over again. Okay, so that is how you customize an existing section. But what if you don't need a section that it gives you, right? Like this one, here it gives us this one single testimonial. Maybe we don't have any testimonials, or maybe we want to do something different for testimonials, right? So I don't need to show you how to change all these things. We already know how to do it. You click through one by one and you change the text and the images. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume we don't need this. And I'm going to click on the X right here. That deletes it. And that leaves us with this kind of like About Us section and then a final call to action section for the page. So what if we need a couple more sections between this and this? I'll show you how to do it. So we're going to click on the plus icon. And again, if you click on this plus icon, you can build a section from scratch. I don't always recommend doing that because you can get in too much trouble and it really becomes a hassle when you're trying to convert it to mobile. That's why I like using pre-made blocks better, because all that work has been done for you and you can get almost anything you need with these pre-done blocks. So I'm going to click again on the S icon and then blocks. So we have all of these content blocks, but let's say we need a benefits section. So we'll go up here where it says all, we're going to filter it. Unfortunately, there's nothing called benefits here, but there's a few things that come close. So features and services can be kind of retrofitted to be benefits too. So I think features works the best. So I'm going to click here, and then we've got all these different layouts to choose from. I think for the look of our website, I like the idea of it going from light to dark. So I'm going to try to choose a dark version here. I think maybe this one is the way to go. So I'm going to click on this one and then import block, and then we'll get rid of this guy here. So you'll see it imported it. All of our fonts are already applied, so it's already looking pretty good. And let's say if we wanted to make the background slightly darker, we would just choose the entire section, go to style and then color. Let's go ahead and make it like a little closer to black. Like this looks pretty nice. All right, now I don't think we need this top line supporting subheading. If you have a use for it, go for it and you know how to change it. But I'm going to right click delete, and then I'm going to click here and just change the headline to Why Work With Us. And I think the size of that works just fine. Now, when it comes to a benefit section, I think 3 is the magic number. So let's say you don't need all 6. Easy to get rid of the second row. You're just going to click on this row and then click on the X. And then you're just left with 3. Okay, so now we have these 3 columns. Each one has its own benefit. So we're just going to click through to each one. And you would change this to whatever your first benefit title is, and then change the description right here. And then we have the icons. So icons are interesting. Click through there, and you're just going to try your hardest to find whatever basically represents your benefit the best visually. And sometimes you have to get creative to think about it. But if you're ever stuck, just go to like ChatGPT and say, hey, these are my 3 benefits. Give me options for really common icons that will help tell that story visually, and it'll usually point you in the right direction. So I'm just going to leave it on the light bulb, and I'm going to click on insert, and we can style it just going up to style. So this is another instance of one of those compound widgets, right, where everything is controlled in one place: the icon, the headline, and the description. So if you go to style, to change the styling of the icon, you'll just click down here. So primary color, let's choose one of our, these are the colors it came with out of the box. I might want to make that a little brighter though. So I've chosen the green, but now I'm going to fine tune it. So I'm going to click on the green swatch here, and I'm just going to go a little up from there to make it brighter. And I think that looks pretty nice. So, maybe you want to make the title bolder. So let's just go to style, content, title, typography, weight. Let's see what semi-bold looks like. Okay, looks pretty good. So once you get it the way you want it, all we need to do, again, right-click, copy, then right-click, paste style, and one more time, So this is how you can really easily and closely control the content of your website. You just go bit by bit, section by section, and find the best layout that serves your content. So we're going to do this one more time just to really let it sink in. So let's say we need a testimonial section here. Always good to have on your homepage. So again, we're going to click on the plus sign right where we want it to go. Click on the S icon. Blocks, and then we're going to choose testimonials this time. And since our last section was dark, I'm going to make this section light. So let's look for a layout that's going to serve the content the best. I think something like this looks pretty nice. So I'm just going to click this one and then import block, and we'll click out of there. All right, so this is what we're working with. You can change this headline right here. And then for each individual testimonial, let's click on the image first. I'm not sure why these are showing like this when over here we're seeing the actual image. But anyway, we're just going to click on the first one, click on choose image over here. Let's go ahead and grab our client. And then if you go up to style, we can change the sizing of it by dragging this to wherever it looks good. And for whatever reason, I don't know why they do this, opacity is not, it's like kind of transparent for no good reason. So I'm just going to drag this all the way up to where it's 1. That means it's full opacity. And then you would just put in the actual quote right here. Be careful not to make it too long. You don't want it to be like a crazy long testimonial. Shorter is almost always better. I like to actually put quotation marks around it though, so it really reads as a quote. Then you change the name right here. You know, we know how to do that already. Now, what about these 5 stars? We don't want to be showing 4-star emojis, right? So we're just going to click on this, and it says rating scale 0 to 5. Rating, we're just going to say 5, because ideally, whenever you're putting in a testimonial, that should be a 5-star review. And then if you want to change the color of the stars, you just go to style, and then I like to choose just a nice kind of golden color, like between orange and yellow, and maybe slightly darker than that. That looks pretty good. Now we're just going to apply that. We're going to right-click copy, then right-click paste style, and then one more time over here. And then we're just going to, on each one, make sure it's also set to 5. And then we'll add in the photos one by one. And then remember what we did over here. We changed the size and the opacity. So we're going to right-click copy, then right-click paste style on each of these. And if we want to change the background color, maybe we want it to be our same kind of background beige color. We'll just choose the whole section, go to style, and then our globe. Remember that gives us all of our pre-selected colors. And then we'll choose background beige. And just a slight design note here. So you'll notice I'm not putting any crazy colors as like background images because it almost never works. Like it is a very big risk to do that. So again, if you don't really trust your design skills, I would recommend keeping it nice and neutral with pops of color that come in places like the icons and the button, that kind of thing. So just a little color advice for me. Otherwise, things can go really sideways, and it can make your website look pretty amateur if you handle colors wrong. Okay, so now we have this last kind of about us section. So let's just go ahead and lightly customize this. So again, I don't think we need this little copy here. So I'm going to click on delete, and then we would change our headline here. And for some reason, they have put all these text blocks as like separate text blocks. It's very confusing and awkward to deal with. So I'm just going to get rid of all of them except for one. So I'm just going to right-click delete on all of these and just work with the top one and customize that text. So I'm just going to paste in what I've got. And within this text editor, there's a lot of extra things you can do, right? You can bold certain key phrases, want to make sure people see, you can italicize them, underline, all that good stuff. And then, you know how to customize all this stuff. You can keep whatever you want, delete whatever you want. I'm going to delete all these down here. I don't think they're really doing much heavy lifting. And if you want to change these buttons, so if we click here, you'll see this is already linked to our services page, and this is already linked to our About Us page, which we're going to get to both of those a little later. But we probably want these to match the other buttons we've already made if we're going to have them. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to right-click copy, and then right-click paste style. And I'm going to do it on this one as well, but then I'm going to slightly modify it. So I want to make this one more prominent than this one. Let's say if you wanted to do it that way. So all I'm going to do here, I'm just going to go to Style, and I'm just going to choose the background type, Classic, and I'm going to choose black. Very simple. Okay. Now we know how to change the image, but I'm going to show you one extra cool thing. So, if you want to keep an image, you know how to do that. I'm going to right click delete, and I'm going to go up to the plus sign, because sometimes what's really good to have in a section like this is a video, right? So if you happen to have a video that you want to showcase, or let's say a Google map or anything like that, you just take what you want and you drag it where you want it. But obviously you don't just want this video placeholder here, you want your video. So the way you control that is under video content, you got to choose the source first. So you have choices between YouTube, Vimeo, Dailymotion, VideoPress, or self-hosted. Self-hosted, I don't recommend. That means you are physically uploading it to your website hosting. That's going to be a drain on your hosting plan, and it's going to slow down your site. Much better thing to do is to first upload it to YouTube. Why YouTube and not Vimeo or these other ones? Well, because YouTube is searchable. People can find you on YouTube. People aren't really gonna find you as a business on Vimeo or Dailymotion. So YouTube is definitely the play there. Upload it to YouTube, grab the link to it, and then you're just gonna paste that link right here. And a few more things we can control. So now we have 2 columns. What if we want the video to be slightly bigger? Well, we just need to choose the column that the video is in. We're going to go to layout, and width, it's currently set to 37% of the total width here. So if we drag that up, it kind of takes some away from this column, but it makes the video bigger. And I think that looks a bit better. So, but if we look at it, it looks fine. It's justified with the top of this text. But if you wanted something different, if you wanted it to be centered here, because sometimes you will have a need to have different columns centered vertically, we're going to choose this whole section under layout, and we're going to go under where it says justify content and align items. We're going to choose this middle option right here. And to me, I think this looks actually a little bit better, but that's completely up to you. It's just good to know how to do stuff like that. So, all right, so this section I'm going to call done. Now we have one final section on this page where it's basically a Hail Mary of like, hey, you've made it down this far. Let's get started. How about you contact us? So, but again, if you don't need this section, you can delete it. You can put something else in, whatever you want. But I want to show you this one because there's a really cool thing that we have not covered yet. So, and it has to do with the background. So obviously you know how to change the text here. You just do it right over here. You would change this over here. The button, I'm going to go back up to the top, and I'm going to copy our button we already have. And I'm going to right click, paste style. Okay, so our background. We've already done a background image like we did in our hero section. We've already changed the background color. So we know how to do all those things. If we click on the section, we go to style, you either choose a different background image, or if you get rid of it, you choose a color. We know how to do it, but I'm going to show you something different. So let's click over here where it has this little camera icon. We can actually put a video background on this section or any section you want. And it can be a really cool effect. And the way you'll do this is, again, you'll want to use an image that's on YouTube. So what I recommend doing if you don't already have a video like this in mind, just go to YouTube, type in something like, fill in whatever your niche is, and then the word B-roll. Something like creative business B-roll. B-roll just means extra footage that you can put in the background for things, basically. So you would just see what you can find that would be a good fit. So I just found this one, which is kind of nice ambient video footage. Anyway, you can choose something like this. You can choose something that's just kind of abstract, or even like gradient background colors that shift. And all you're going to do is grab the link to it. You'll come back over to Elementor under style, and then I'm just going to pop in that link right here like so. And then you'll notice it starts at the beginning. Maybe you don't want that. It lets you specify a start time though. So this one happens to really start the action at around 4 seconds in. There we go. That's a lot cleaner. And obviously you can't read the text super great over this video. So what we really want to do is knock it way back and make it much more subtle. So the way we do that is, again, we collapse background and we go to background overlay. And then you choose your color. Remember I said black is almost always the best one here. In this case, it's not even set to black. It's set to like almost green. So we want to set it to actual black. And then we're going to bump up that opacity to where it's just kind of barely there in the background, because we want the text to really shine, and we just want that to be some like extra flavor on top of it. So that is our page. That's our first page, our home page, but we're not quite done yet, because we have to make sure that it not only looks great on desktop, but on mobile too. So what we want to do is go up to the top where it's got like a little icon of a computer, a tablet, and a mobile phone. So we're going to click on the mobile phone, and that is going to give us our view of what this all looks like on mobile. So the good news is almost everything has already been thought out in advance. It's just our job now to kind of make tweaks that will only be affected on mobile, so it looks great there too. So right off the bat, I think we can do some work on this headline, because again, it's very loose, right? The line height's loose. So we'll go to Style, Typography, and then under line height, let's go ahead and make that look a little bit more appropriate. Something like that's great. Now, in case you're wondering, okay, Wes, but does that affect what we've already done on desktop? It doesn't, right? So if you click on the desktop here, it still looks the way we left it. That change we made only applies to mobile. And the way you know that is if anything you're changing, if it has the little mobile icon next to it, that means you were only changing this for mobile or for desktop or for tablet, whatever you're working on. So I think that's great. So now maybe this text is a little too big. We would just click there, go down to typography, and again, size, and we're looking at that little mobile icon again, so we know it's just taking effect there. And then maybe we'll make the line height slightly tighter. I think that looks good. And then all we need to do is just go down the page and start making little tweaks that we feel like would be better. So this, again, I think it's too big. So we click here, Style, Typography. Let's go ahead and make it, I think that looks nice. And then line height, let's give that a little love. I think that's good. This text looks good. Okay, so one thing, remember what we did on desktop, we made these more square. That did not take effect on mobile. And that's really where we would want it. We don't want people scrolling too much on mobile because they'll get tired of it. So what we need to do is choose this image. So we'll click on the little pink pencil and then under style, and we're gonna make this height whatever we think looks the best. And I would actually make it a little less than square. I would make it more like this, to be honest, just to save that scrolling space. So then I would just do right click copy and then paste style here and then here as well. And we go down. So like this one, I would probably want to put this on one line while I work with us. So style typography, let's just make it about like that. And this all looks pretty good to me. I think I want to make this on one line too. Perfect. And let's go ahead and make this. Yeah, that looks better, I think. Okay, looks good to me. So let's go back to our desktop view. Important last step before we move on to the other pages, we gotta click on Publish to make sure that we've saved all of our changes and to where this is actually going to be live for people to see it. So, all right, congratulations on one page down. We've got a few more here. So in order to get to our other pages to edit them, all we're gonna do is click on this little eyeball icon here to preview our page that we have. And then you'll see we have all these other pages. They're pre-built, they're pre-laid out. We're just gonna click on the next one, About. So this is kind of what we're dealing with. And then to edit it, we just click on Edit with Elementor. Okay, so we're now back inside the Elementor editor, and this should look very familiar. It's just like the home page. We just still have a series of sections with columns, and we got our sidebar over here. So we're just gonna handle this very much the same way that we did our home page. So the first thing we need to worry about is our little top bar here. It has the title of the page with a nice background image behind it. So first thing you can do is if you needed to change, maybe you wanted this to be about me rather than about us, or whatever you want that headline to be, you can change it. And obviously you can change the style, typography, all that good stuff is handled over there. But what about the background image? So We know how to do that too. It's just as simple as choosing the section, going to Style, and then Image. We will go ahead and choose something different. Ideally, it should be kind of a big full width image like this. It shouldn't be square. I'm going to click on Select. And then if you're running into readability issues, again, we just go up to under Background. We go to Background Overlay, ideally choosing the color black. We're going to bump that up slightly to where we can just read it a little bit better. I think that looks pretty good. Oh, and I forgot to show you this on the homepage, but there's a cool effect you can do here. So still choosing this section. If you go down under background, so you've got the image selected, notice how when you scroll, the whole image scrolls with the page. But what can look a little more modern and interesting, I think, if the image stays in place and everything scrolls around it. So if you go to Attachment, it's set to scroll, but if you put it on Fixed, all of a sudden, the image stays put and then this scrolls around it, which I just think kind of looks better. So that's something you can also do with the hero section on your homepage. But anyway, let's move on down to our next section. So any About Us page should have kind of a nice section like this where you introduce yourself, you kind of talk about your own experiences, what makes you qualified, all that good stuff. So you would change your headline by clicking here and then putting it in here, something like that. And then we style it, typography. I think the size of the font is fine, but the line height, again, is a problem. So let's do that. And here we have another instance where the designer of this decided to just make 4 separate text blocks for no reason. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete all of these except for the first one. And then you would put in whatever your text is here. And then we want to change our image. Just click on it, choose image, and I'm going to choose maybe this one right here. So I would call this section finished. Now it gives us all of these other sections, which are basically like, it's like kind of a redo of the first section and just these like big quotes here. So I'm gonna just get rid of all of these and we're gonna put in whatever it is you need for your About Us page. So click on the X on all of these guys. Just start with a nice blank page. So we've got this section. Now let's go ahead and add in something else. So we're gonna click on the little S icon, blocks. So again, all you need to do is see like what do you need to communicate on this page and what section is going to be the best layout to help you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do something that I like to use on an About Us page, which is a statistics block. So I'm going to click on that. And you've got all these different ways of showing, like if you saved people so much money or you have so many 5-star reviews on Google, anything like that you can communicate here. So I think I'm going to choose this one right here. Click on Import Block. So this one's cool because it has these little counters that count up from 0. So it's a little animation. It's just something, kind of a little bit of interest for your site. And this gives you space for 4 different stats. Obviously, if you don't have 4, maybe you just have 3, it's easy to get rid of one just by clicking there. And actually, you'd want to get rid of this whole column so everything spreads out. So I'm going to right click on that column and then delete. Cool. And then you would, whatever you want to say here, you would just change that right over here. Or, if you didn't need the preamble for it, you can just right click, delete on the column. Okay, but so now you're just going to add in your numbers if you have them. So it might be something like, put in 98, and then we have number prefix or suffix. I'll show you both. A suffix is what comes after the number, like if it's percent. So 98%, and then subheading 1, you would click here and you'd write something like, client satisfaction. Or if we want to click on this next number, so let's do a prefix and a suffix. So it would be a $sign is a prefix, and then number suffix might be K, right? $70,000. And then you would type in, whatever that means. Or, 84, or like maybe I would say 100 plus 5-star reviews. I don't know. You get the point. We're providing some proof here that what you do actually works. So from here, I might just want to change the background color more to black. Oh, we've actually got an image here. That's why, okay, I'm going to click on the trash can to get rid of that image. Nice black background. And then we can change the typography here to anything we want. We know how to do that under Style, Number, change it. But I'm going to do text color instead. I'm going to make this kind of our green color, but brighter. And I didn't save that color last time. I didn't follow my own advice. So I'm going to click here and let's go ahead and make that a little bit brighter. just by dragging it right up from where we were. And now I'm going to save it so we have it. And then I'm going to right-click copy, right-click paste style, and again, and that's looking pretty good. But now, okay, so we've run into something here that we have not had a chance to talk about yet, and that is the idea of margin and padding. Basically, what I'm getting at here is there's not enough room here between this image and the next section, and it kind of looks a little janky, to be honest. So what I want to do is go up to this top section, click on the whole section, and then go to advanced. So here what we have is padding refers to the space within a section. So you can see here we have 90 pixels of padding on top, 0 on the bottom. That's why there's like no space here. So if we added a 90 to the bottom too, then we have more room and it just looks a little nicer. Okay, so let's finish out this page. What if you need now a space for, team bios or just kind of pictures of your team members? Well, just click on the little S icon, blocks, and when I say that, it's any section you need. I'm just going to show you all the different options and how to customize stuff. And we'll choose the one that says team, and then we've got all these options. Now, I recommend not doing one where it has everyone's like socials. You don't want to be sending people on your website to your team members' social media. I'm just going to do a nice simple one, this layout right here. But again, feel free to use whichever layout works best for you and kind of matches what you've already got going. So I'm going to click this one right here, then import block. And I would change the headline to something more like, and then we would change this, or if you don't need it at all, right-click delete, and then just click on each picture one by one and add your team members' photos. And then you would change their names right here. Their name is the title, and description would be their job description, basically. But what happens if you don't have exactly 4 team members? Well, it's easy to manipulate this. All you need to do is, let's say you had 3. You would just right-click delete the last one. That opens it up. Let's say you had 6. Well, all you need to do is duplicate this row, right? So we're just going to click right here. So we're choosing this like intersection, right-click, duplicate. Now we have another row of them. And let's say we had 5. We just right-click, delete this one. So it's very customizable and very easy to kind of get to the number you need. But I'll just go ahead and get rid of this for now. And I'm going to change the background color to our beige. So we'll go up to style, background type, color, just choose our background beige color. There we go. Then if you have need for other sections on this page, we know how to do that, right? We click here, we go to blocks, we just choose whichever section layout we want and we customize it. But let's just call this one done, except for we still need to reality check it for mobile. So we're going to go up to our mobile icon here, and we're just going to be on the lookout for anything that feels off, right? So everything's looking fine right now. I think let's go ahead and tighten that up again. I'm like a broken record with the line height, but there we go. I think that looks better. I think this all looks good. Great. I'm going to call that done, and we're going to click on Publish. And then to get to our next page, we're going to click back on the little eyeball icon to preview changes. We're going to click on our next page, which happens to be Services, and then Edit with Elementor. Then we're just going to go section by section and make all the same kinds of changes we've already been making. And don't worry, I will show you in a bit how to make any new pages you need or how to change any of the existing pages that they gave you into something different. And then we're just going to go ahead and change our background image. We choose the section, go to Style, choose Image, and then maybe this one right here. And then let's apply that background overlay so the text is easier to read. We'll go back to Background Overlay, make sure it's pure black, and then drag that up to where it's nice and easy to read, somewhere like that. Okay, now we know what we're doing from here, right? We just click on each element and we change it to what we need it to be. So starting with the image, we're going to click on our first service. We'll change the name of it here, change the dollar amount here. Maybe it's starting at $5.99, and then again they've made this difficult with all these different content blocks. I'm going to delete all of them, and then just click here, and you would just tell them what's in that package. And then the button, you can change that to something like, you can either keep get a quote or schedule a consultation, and that's already linked to your contact page, which is good. But the button does not match what we've already done for the button. So I'm gonna go back to our home page over here, and I'm just gonna right click copy, and then right click paste style. Then now I gotta make sure it's left justified again. So I'm gonna go to style and choose left. There we go. Now we're just gonna do the same thing for the rest of these. Or if you didn't like this particular treatment for the services, all we need to do is go down to the plus icon and then the S icon, blocks, and then let's choose services right here. And now you have all these other layouts, right? You could choose something that looks more like this, where like an image and then you've got the text block next to it. You know, there's all different ways that you can handle it. But even within this, you could change the look just by, making the background dark and making the text light. There's all kinds of things you can do. But anyway, for now, we're just gonna click on the mobile phone just to make sure it looks good on our devices before we move on to our next page. But yeah, I think everything's looking pretty good as is. So let's click on publish and then back on our eyeball. And now we get to go to our contact page. This is a really important one. This is where you want people to go on your website to get the ball rolling with you. So once we're here, we're gonna click on Edit with Elementor. Okay, so now we've got our Contact Us header right here. I actually recommend changing that to something with more of a point on it. I would say something more like, get a free consultation, make it mean business rather than just contacting you. And then we'll change our background image just by clicking on the section, style, choose image, and then select. Okay, and then if we still had a hard time reading this, we would just go to background overlay, choosing black, and then just drag it to wherever it looks good. Okay, now we have where the action actually happens. Starting with this headline, we respond to all messages within 24 hours. Super important to have something like this, just to let people know what they can expect next. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna leave it as is content-wise, but style, I'm going to make the line height slightly smaller, and I'm probably gonna add a little text block underneath it just to further explain what they can expect. So I'm gonna click on the plus icon, and we'll do a text editor. And here's where I would tell them something like, give us as much information as possible, or tell them like what information to give you. Really just break the process down so it's easy for them to understand what's coming next. And then I'm gonna go to style and I will align that to the center to match what we have above it. And we do still need to edit this form, but we don't actually do this inside of the Elementor environment. We do it somewhere else. So before we move on to that, I'm just gonna go down here. We have this extra section, work with me online or in person. I don't know how helpful this is. If you have a need for this section, great. Some people like to put like a map of where they work. So if you wanted to, I just want to show you that option. We'll delete all this stuff here. This can be a good like local SEO play just to put your map there. So we'll make sure we're up on where it has all the elements, all the widgets, and we're gonna drag a Google map from here right over to here. And here's where you would put in, generally speaking, if you put in the name of your business, if you're currently on Google already, it should pop up for you. If not, you just want to put in your full address here. And then from there, you're just going to want to go bit by bit here and change your information. Highly recommend not listing your email address. That is going to lead to massive amounts of spam. So what I would always recommend doing, delete your email address. This form is all they need. They fill that out, it goes to your email. They don't need to actually possess your email address. That shouldn't be made public. So then you can click on these social icons and you can configure which ones you want to use. Maybe you don't want to use Twitter anymore. You'll click on, where it says WordPress. You can go to icon library and choose, YouTube. Let's say you're on YouTube. Go and insert. Also, no, we have two of those. So, and then for each one, you're just going to go one by one, and you're going to paste in the URL to your social profile. If you want to get rid of one, you just click on the X. If you want to add another one, click Add Item, and just keep going like that. Then if you go to style, under color, it's set to custom now, right? This is our kind of custom green color that we've already chosen, but you can choose anything else. Or if you want to choose the official color, that's going to put it at the actual color. YouTube is red, Facebook could be blue, for instance. It's your choice. But I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this section. I don't think we need it. And now I'm going to go ahead, before we actually configure the form, let's stay inside the Elementor environment just to make sure that it all looks good on mobile. So I'm going to click on this up here. Everything looks fine. These fields look fine to me. Button looks good. Okay, cool. So now we're going to click on Publish, and let's go back out to Desktop. And I'm going to click on our form. And over here it says, need to make changes, edit the selected form. So I'm going to click on that right now. Okay, so now we can actually edit the form itself. So this is going to go in 2 stages. The first one is actually putting in the form fields you need. And the second is we're going to actually make this work so that whenever anybody fills it out, you get an email about it. Otherwise, if we don't configure that, they're going to fill it out and it goes nowhere. So currently we have your name, your email, your phone, your message. Let's say there was one of these things that you didn't even need. Like if you didn't need their phone number, you could just click on the little trash can and it would be deleted. I'm just going to click cancel, but that's how you would do that. Generally speaking, these are the things you want to ask for, especially if you're going to call them back. You do need their phone number. If you're not planning on calling them back though, I would not ask for this. It's going to result in a lot fewer people filling out your form, but they might be more qualified because anyone who gives you their phone number is a little bit more, they're raising their hand a little higher for help, But maybe you want to add something else here. Like maybe you want to ask people what their budget is because you get a lot of tire kickers who can't afford you and you don't even want to get on the phone with those people. So you could ask that in the form of a dropdown. So if you took that and you dragged it into place, maybe right here, we'll click to edit. So the label here would be, what's your budget? First choice would be, second choice, and third might be, and then you have the choice to make it required or not. So if you're going to ask a question like this, you might want to make sure that they fill it out. If so, you just click on this little button right here, and that way they have to answer it in order to send this out. Now we get to your message. So if we click here and then click to edit. So I recommend doing here is rather than saying your message, because people may not know what to say there, and if they don't know what to say, they tend to put stuff off. So I would actually ask a real question here. Even if it's just, is there anything we need to know about your project before our call? That way, they get the idea that they can say no, or they can tell you whatever they need. But if you need to know something specific, I would ask for that here. And then I like to generally make this one not required, unless again, you're trying to get rid of tire kickers and they're more serious if they fill this out. Okay, so I'm gonna click on save, just to save all of our work that we've done here. The next important thing we have to do is we have to go to settings to make this thing actually work. So we're going to go to notifications, and you want to make sure all this is filled out. So send to email address, that is your email address that it's going to send to. So, if you already configured your admin email in your WordPress, then that should be good to go. Otherwise, you might want to just be safe and type in your actual email address. And if more than one person is to get it, you can separate them with a comma. And then email subject line. So what do you want the subject line to be when you get one in? I might change it to something more like, new consultation request or new meeting booked, something like that. Okay, from name. This one's important. So you actually want the name to be the person's name who's filled out the form, right? So I'm going to click on Show Smart Tags, and then I'm going to choose your name because that was one of the ones that we chose. And I'm going to get rid of Hope. That was just the placeholder. So whatever name they typed in, it's going to show it's from that person. And then from email, we don't want it to be from your email, right? That's admin. We're going to do Show Smart Tags, and it's going to be your email. So whatever email address they typed in, that's going to be the address it's from, allowing you to easily just respond to that email address. And then reply to, you've got that. Email message is just going to include all the different fields. And that's pretty much all you've got to know here. So I'm going to click on save, and then I'm going to exit out of here. So what I would definitely do though is I'm going to click on the eyeball icon again. If I were you, I would fill this out and make sure that it all took effect and you actually get that email. You always want to test those things. Okay, so we're nearing the end here. I do want to show you two more important things that you might need to know how to do though. So the first one is, how do you change a page like services, for instance? What if you don't need a services page? What if you need a pricing page or a testimonials page instead? So I'm going to show you how to change any page that they give you. And I'm also going to show you how to just create any new page you ever need. So in order to do that, let's exit back out into WordPress. So what we need to do then is go click on the little WordPress icon here. And now we're back where we started inside of the WordPress dashboard. So let's just go over to pages. This is our list here. We have about, contact, home, we have a privacy policy, and we have services. So let's say for a second, we want to change services to pricing, okay? The first thing we want to do is just go to quick edit, and I'm going to change this to pricing. And slug, I'm going to change that to pricing as well. So all slug means is that's the part of your website address. So it'd be yourbusinessname.com/pricing, whatever this is, or /about if it was the About Us page. So that's what the slug is. And we're going to click on Update. And then we'd want to go to Edit with Elementor. And then we would change right here, we would just change it to our pricing. And then here this kind of works because it already is about pricing, right? It basically does the job already. But if you needed to add whole new content here, we know how to do that, right? We can get rid of everything we have just by clicking on all these little X's. And then we can add new stuff by clicking on the S and then going to blocks and then just choosing whatever content is going to fill the bill the best for whatever it is we need. Just stack it up one after the next. I'm going to go ahead and do Command Delete. Command Z. I'm going to undo what we just did. So that's how you change a page. How about just adding a brand new page? What if you needed everything they gave you, but you have need for more pages beyond that? So we're just going to click on the little Elementor logo and then exit to WordPress. That's how you always can go from Elementor back into WordPress. And then the WordPress icon here. And here's the thing, you can add a new page, but then it's not going to give you the same header that you had already. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to search for a plugin. So remember, a plugin just extends the functionality of your website. In this case, we want a plugin that's going to allow us to easily duplicate a page. So we'll go to Plugins, Add New Plugin. I'm going to type in Duplicate. There's a lot of plugins that'll do this. I tend to go with this one, just Duplicate Page. It's super lightweight, super easy. And then click on Activate. Okay, so now if we go back to pages, we can just choose any of our internal pages that are, I would just choose the simplest one. Let's say we need to add a testimonials page, right? I would go to About, duplicate this, and then here's the one we just created. I'm going to go to Quick Edit, and I'm going to call this Testimonials, and then slug, I'm going to type the same thing. Remember, so now you'll go to yourwebsite.com/testimonials, and that'll be that page. So click on Update, and then Edit with Elementor. Okay, so now we have basically a carbon copy of your About Us page. So from here, obviously we just need to change the title, and you could change the background image if you want. And then I would just get rid of all these sections, just X them all out, start from a brand new page. Then we click on the S icon, blocks, and then look for testimonials. And then you would just choose a layout that works the best. So, I might choose this one right here and then import block. And then I don't know that we need a secondary headline here, but obviously you know how to change that. But I'm going to right click, delete. And then here, just go one by one, choosing the right image for the right person. Then you would input the right testimonial here, and then the person's name would go right here. And then if you have more than 3, you're just going to want to duplicate this section. So you just right click, duplicate. Now, the only problem with this is it gives you way too much space here. So this is where you're going to have to mess with the padding a little bit. So I'd go to the top section, advanced. On the bottom, I'd probably put about 10 padding, and then I would go down to the second one, and I would go to advanced, and I would probably do another 10 on the top, and then another 10 on the bottom. Now you can just keep duplicating it over and over again as many times as you need to. You can even add in like a featured testimonial section here. So if you wanted to add, let's say you have a great video testimonial, you can just click on the plus icon, again on the S, and then blocks. They don't really have that under testimonials, but if you go to About, it'll give you a nice starting point here. I would just choose something nice and simple like this right here, and then import block. And then we can just right click, delete this image, and then go back up to the plus, and we would bring our video in. And then obviously, again, you'd have to have that uploaded to YouTube or Vimeo or something. I recommend YouTube. And then you would paste in the link to it right here. And then the headline, it would be something like just kind of a gist of what it's about. You know, something like that. And you might style it, you might make it a little smaller, maybe like that. And then you input the text here. So I would probably put it in quotes. So basically what you're doing is you're just pulling out like a really good pull quote from the interview or from the testimonial. And then you could, put their name here. Maybe you want to make that bold. And then if you want to go above and beyond, click on the plus. I'm going to type in star. So we have a rating here. We'll just drag that right underneath. And there you go. And again, you just want a reality check for mobile. So we'll click right up there. This looks good. Let's make this a little smaller. And then let's see. Okay, so now we're running into, remember how we duplicated that section? So we need to actually make it work on mobile too. So I'm just gonna click on this section, and then on padding, I'm gonna unlink these values. On the bottom, I'm gonna do 10. Okay, so now I'm gonna right click on the section, copy, and I'm gonna paste that here. So paste style, and then paste style again. So like that's looking pretty good. We'll click on publish. Okay, so let's take a look. One more thing we need to do, we still have to deal with our header and our footer, right? So let's go ahead and take care of that right now. So we'll click on the E, the Elementor icon, and then exit to WordPress. And then on our WordPress icon. Okay, so now under pages, these are all of the pages that we currently have. So the first thing we need to do when we're dealing with our header is choose which of these pages are going to be in the menu. So we need to go over to Appearance and then Menus. And here we've got one main menu already set up for us, and it has the homepage, About Us, Services, and Contact. But remember, we changed services to pricing. So just changing it on the page wasn't enough to change how it's going to show up in the menu. So the way we would change that, if you ever want to change the wording basically on any of these, so let's go ahead and do that for a couple of them. So for services, what we have here is navigation label. So that just means that's the actual wording that's going to show up in the menu. So if I were to change that to pricing instead, now that change will finally take effect. What if you wanted about to say, about us? You just change the navigation labels, as easy as that. Now there's a few of these that we might want to get rid of and a couple that we might want to add. So I'll show you how to do that. First of all, home. We don't really need home in our main menu items. And here's why, because pretty much everybody knows by now that when you click the logo, it takes you to the home page. So you don't really need it here. The other one we don't need is contact, because this button is meant to take people to the contact page. Right now it's set up as a phone number, but we're going to change that. So we can probably get rid of home and contact, making room for a few other pages you might need. So let's go back here. So to get rid of one, we're just going to expand it and then click on remove. And we're going to do the same for contact as well. So what about adding new ones? So we added a testimonials page, for instance. So all we need to do is choose any page that we want to do, or select all, and then add to menu. So now we have all three, and then from there you can drag and drop them in whatever order you want. I think this is probably a good order for now. And then we'll just click on Save Menu. Okay, so now we got to figure out how to actually add in our logo and style this to where, this button looks like this button, and we can control the fonts and all that good stuff. So we're going to go back into WordPress, and we're just going to go down to under Appearance, Customize. And then we're going to look for the header builder. And I'm actually going to go ahead and hide the builder. We don't really need all that down there. We can control most of everything from the sidebar instead. So it says this header is set from the transparent header. So we're going to click right here, Customize Transparent Header. And we're going to click on this Enable on Complete Website toggle right here. And then we're going to go down and make sure it's set to desktop and mobile. And then we're going to change our logo. So right here, it's got this kind of white dove. We're just going to click on Change Image. And I've got one right here all ready to go. Now, ideally what you want is something along these lines that's wider than it is tall. We call that, landscape mode versus portrait mode. Because think about it, if your logo is taller than it is wide, it's going to look kind of funky up here in the header. So that's why you want something like this. And ideally, when you're dealing with the transparent header, you want the logo file itself to be a transparent background. And you need to make sure it's a color that's going to work with your background. So in this case, our backgrounds are kind of dark, so we want to go with a light logo file. And obviously though, it's really small up here, right? We can barely see it. So the way we adjust it is under logo width, we can just kind of drag it to where we want it to be. Something maybe around, just under 200 is probably good. Now, the problem is sometimes it bugs out and it won't really show you what it looks like as you're doing it. So what we have to do, I'm going to click on Publish, and then I'm going to refresh the page, and that should show us, there we go. Now it's taken effect. Okay, so now what about these other elements? So we have our menu and we have our button. So let's start with the menu. I'm just going to click on the little pencil right there, and then I'm going to go over to Design. And I'm not going to worry about any of these things. I think all the settings are pretty good as is, but I can tell that the font is not really the font that we're going with on the site. So I'm going to go down to Menu Font, and I'm going to choose Outfit. That's just the one that we've been using, but feel free to use, obviously you want to use whatever font that you're using on your site. And then we also have this issue of these ones are all in caps and this one's not. It's just how they were put in originally. So I'm going to go ahead and click right here on this, this icon, which will just capitalize everything. And you can of course change the sizing of it. I happen to think this looks good. You can change the weight. So if we wanted to make it a little thicker, we could do maybe a semi-bold. I think that looks pretty nice. Okay, now what about the button? So obviously we need to do a few things with it. We don't really want it to be linked to a phone number because that's not really a great user experience, at least on desktop. And we definitely want it to match the call to action we already have. So let's just click on this little pencil. And here's where you'd put in the call to action text. You want it to match what we've already got. And then for the link, we're just going to do a backslash and then contact. That will take us to the Contact Us page. So that takes care of the content of the button. What about the style? So we got to go up to Design, and then background color, it's set to this is the hover color. So if we go up here and we hover over it, it turns green, but it's basically clear until that point. So what we want to do is choose that same color for the non-hover state. So something like that. And then if we wanted to change the hover color, we can click here and we can maybe make it a little bit darker, just so it, it kind of reads as you mouse over it. People know that it is a button. So we can change the font because right now it is definitely not the same font as this. So I'm going to click right here and I'm going to choose our same one we've been using, Outfit. And then weight, I will make it semi-bold. It's starting to look a little bit more like this. Now let's go to border width. So remember what we did here, and feel free, whatever you did for your button, we just want to repeat it. So in this case, we did a border on the bottom and on the right. So what we want to do is unlink these values so they're independent. So top will do 0, and then left will do 0. And now we need to round it out the same way, so it's this nice pill shape. So we're just going to go to border radius. We want to make sure that these are linked up together. So now I'm just going to type in, 30. There we go. But now we need to reality check this on mobile and make sure it looks good there too. So we're going to go down to the bottom this time and just click on the little mobile device icon. And this is what it looks like. Looks pretty good, right? So if we click here, the menu drops down and we can see all our pages. My one gripe with this would probably be, I think the logo is a little small. So let's fix that by clicking on the little pencil, and then we'll scroll down to where it says logo width. And again, we're seeing that mobile device, so we know that we're only changing it on mobile. So let's see if this doesn't give us any feedback in real time again. So let's see what 100 looks like. I'm gonna click on publish and then refresh. I think that looks great. We've already published it, but if you haven't done that, go ahead and click publish. Now we're going to go down to our footer builder, last step. And let's go over to desktop version so we can see what we're doing here. So we have here our menu, the old logo for the site, and just kind of a basic copyright line. I don't think it's necessary to really have your logo down here. If you want to do that, go for it. You would just click here and you would have to add it as an image in this text box. It's not a great user experience, honestly. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. I don't think that we need that at all. Things you could do here are, you can just use this text box editor to add in your phone number, your address, any of those things that's going to maybe help your local SEO. Now for the footer builder, it doesn't actually allow you to change the font here on the free version of the footer builder. So not sure about that, but over here, we can at least change our text to the name of your business. Let me click right here and then go back to design. We can change the background color. There's all kinds of things we can do there, but unfortunately we are not able to change the font here. But small price to pay for using a free builder, I say. So I'm just going to click on publish and click on the little X. Then if we go over to pages and then home and click on view, now we've got our finalized website. Looks great. And it didn't take much time or effort to get here. But of course, that's just the how to build your new website. But what about the more important part? What should go on your website to actually get a ton of clients from it? Well, if you're a service business and you want to use your site as an automated lead generation tool, I am saving a seat for you in my brand new masterclass, How to Build a Client-Generating Website That Sells Your Services for You. In just 1 hour, you're going to have a step-by-step plan to turn your website into a client attraction machine that works for you around the clock with no tech skills required. So just click right here to sign up for free, and I'm going to show you all my secrets. So see you right there.